Welcome to the Creative AI Show. What do we have this week, Brian?
Hey Rosh, happy to be here. We are two creative guys talking AI, and I feel like we both had a little bit of a frustrating week in AI, and I think we're going to talk about that a little bit today.
A little bit of a
Um,
rant.
yeah, we might rant a little bit towards the end, so we'll put up the big rant warning flashers up here now. I want to talk a little bit about some struggles I had with some AI, but also ways that I kind of switched gears to get out of what I felt like was like a rut of the
Hmm?
output that I was getting. So I
Oh,
was, excited to talk about that. And then also deep research has come to ChatGPT at the $20 a month level,
hmm.
which is great. That's where I know a lot of our audience is at. Not everybody's big baller throwing around that $200 membership. But but you do get 10 of them a month. So it's like,
Yeah,
hey,
that's
use them
really
wisely.
plenty, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I'm three in, and after about a week, I'm like, hey, I could pace myself here and
Yeah,
use 10 a month. And I assume at the $200 a month level, it's more of an unlimited. You can,
unlimited. Yeah, yeah,
yeah. Also, I don't have GPT 4.5 yet. I have no
right.
access to that. So that might
You
be
don't want
something that, oh,
which is my topic
ooh,
today.
say it now. All right, I like it. All right, well, then here, I'll throw it back your way. What do you have
Yeah,
going
so
on?
I have rants about 4.5. I talked
Ah,
about another one. I'm not going to mention what it is and where that limitation was. And then Pika 2.2, which I know you have
mhm.
some insight on also. And that Pika 2.2, they just created 2.0, 2.1. I mean, within the
Mhm.
last 6 weeks, now 2.2 and fail. But I'll talk
Mhm.
about why and what made it fail in my section.
I can't wait to hear it because out of the 8 images I created with 2.2, I liked one of them. But all right, we'll talk about that. But all right, I want to dive into, and I know I mentioned this last week, so I'm sorry if I'm getting a little blue in the face about this, but deep research is really something that AI has put out in the last couple months across the board, Perplexity, Grok, and now ChatGPT, and it's got to be a mindset changer for people. It
Hmm.
really has to. And, the answers I've gotten. So, I talked last week about how I did a little bit of research for my band and marketing strategies with an album release and an album release show coming up. So this week I dove in, and one of the videos I did in between, thank you again for publishing that, was
Hmm.
some deep research about our YouTube channel. So it's funny to be able to create a video about the videos I'm creating, a little,
Yeah.
multi layers there. But then also, I took it in a little more important direction. So I've got a good client of ours that we've started, pretty good success for the first 6 months on a brand new, fresh Facebook page to where, we've gotten the followers almost up to 1,000 and not in like, cheap kind of ways. These are legit people who we've had really good posts and
Hmm.
invited them to like the everything. So the page is doing really well. But still the client, because of the nature of this business, they can't really feel the heat of it yet because they own a store. So it's the actual foot traffic coming in the store. So I took some screenshots of our initial success and just, to try to get a benchmark of where we're at against the competition. I uploaded about 4 different screenshots into ChatGPT deep research, and I really took some time putting in a prompt. So this is not the 1 second or even one paragraph prompt world. If you're really wanting to get something, this is where the creative director, the AI director,
Hmm.
can make their money is by putting in the proper prompt to deep research where we're talking multiple paragraphs. Probably took me about an hour to write it, honestly.
Okay.
And I mean, I really put in the work to say, hey, these are the kind of things that I know is going to make a difference for my client, whether we're offering show this screenshot at the register, to show that you're part of Facebook, different strategies like that. And what I love about ChatGPT deep research compared to say Grok or Perplexity is the qualifying questions. So
Mm.
every time I've used it thus far, it hasn't been just a prompt and then boom, it does its work. It's a prompt. It thinks for 30 seconds, not terribly long,
Right.
and then it comes back with anywhere from 3 to 6 qualifying questions. And I say 3 to 6 because that's what I've seen so far. I bet you it varies based upon the topic and the information given to it. But the longer my prompt was, the more qualifying questions I got back from it. So these are things like, hey, what is the most impactful thing to your client? What have you seen that's been successful already? Tell me more about the demographics, the target
Nice.
market, things like that. So things that a good marketing coach would ask you back when you're talking about your marketing plan.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
it gave what I thought it gave, and I said, hey, I also want to produce some reports for my client right now just to show that, hey, we haven't been spinning our wheels. I want you to go online and do some research and find some benchmarks of other clients in this industry and compare how we're doing against those benchmarks and put it in a really easy to digest. So my client is not too social media savvy, not too technologically savvy. So it's like, hey, I really need these points to be in a really easy to digest manner.
Hmm.
And I mean, Rosh, it researched about 10 different sources. It took, its normal 4 to 5 minutes, but it provided me this just astounding 6 point plan that I then went and I actually went to GPT slides, which is a whole nother new format. Have you heard of GPT slides yet?
I don't think I have.
Aha, I'm ahead of you on something.
Yeah,
Finally.
I hear a video coming.
So GPT Slides is the PowerPoint slide builder built within ChatGPT. It
Okay.
used to just output it and give you a PowerPoint file.
Right.
And then you would just open it up in your own PowerPoint and play with it.
Right.
Now it transfers you over to GPT Slides and you can modify and
Um,
build your PowerPoint using ChatGPT in that format. So
Nice.
yes, I will definitely do a video on that, but it's one of the newest releases and it put me right into it and it was great. So now I have a meeting with this client on Wednesday and I'm currently working on synthesizing everything that Deep Research did, grabbing some screenshots. And what was also great about Deep Research is once it gave me the answer, it wasn't quite done with the topic. I was able to still ask a few things back and forth and have a few
Mhm.
iterations, and it didn't count it as a brand new Deep Research.
Oh, okay.
So, it didn't get counted against my 10 a month.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah. And then, just for comparison's sake, and so I had a little more to talk about on this show, I took that same prompt that I worked on. I popped over to Perplexity, I popped over to Grok, and you know what? Some of the answers were similar. And I thought if I were to rank them, I would definitely say ChatGPT was number one. I would
That's
say
good to know.
Grok 3.0 was number two. And then Perplexity still did a good job, but it was very surface level on
Mm,
Perplexity.
okay.
There were no ideas that I would say are like kind of outside the box or, where Grok, again, like I explained last week, can get really kind of guerrilla marketing, kind
Yeah.
of crazy
Right.
different
Right.
ideas. But no, ChatGPT, it gave that consistent, solid answer that I'm expect from it.
Right.
Thinking about your clients and stuff, Rosh, if any of them, if obviously
Yeah.
none of them have struggles because you're amazing at what you
Yeah.
do,
Right.
but, but should you hit a road bump, is that something you would possibly turn to and
Oh,
use?
absolutely. I mean, being able to actually, you do have those questions and you would like a little more research. Like, I don't want to go through all that right now, but oh,
Hmm.
wait, just type it in and, answer a few questions back. And next thing you
Yeah.
know, a few minutes later, you have something you can work on, distill on, like you said, use slides, for your deck, if you want to do a presentation, or if you just
Hmm.
need it for your own research. I think you mentioned this last week, new client, new area of business, you're not as familiar. Well, maybe you can walk in with a little more insight because you've done some, double check the research. I mean, sometimes that research is a little off. So if you see
Hmm.
statistics and things like that, double check
Yes.
it. But at least you know to double check it or that is actually a thing to be
Right.
concerned about. So that's the stuff. I mean, sometimes it's just things you didn't know to care about. It can really be beneficial.
Right. Yeah, for example, on our show, it says let's start getting some merch going. So I mean, we're going to start to see these
Woohoo.
creative AI, the t-shirts that we're wearing. But it's just, different ideas that you might not think of and stuff just to expand the reach of your show or expand,
Yeah,
whatever it is your goal is. So that's great.
absolutely.
All right. Well, I want to throw it back your way. I know you're Mr. Big Bucks Chat GPT. You got 4.5 going.
Yeah, yeah. So we'll save
Tell me about it.
2.2
What's
Pika we can both rant about in the
Yeah, yeah.
second part.
Yep.
4.5. So I got 4.5. Yay, we've been waiting for this and
Yay.
I started using it a couple days ago. I think it was Friday. And at the end of the day, I was just mad. It was I was doing some pretty deep stuff, some pretty deep coding, some stuff that I wasn't as familiar with. I'm working with Amazon servers and a lot of those Amazon
Oh wow. Okay.
systems that can get pretty complex, as well as Google. I'm using some of the Google stuff too, doing, say, for example, cron jobs through Google, but there's also places where you can do functions and all sorts of things. And so I needed to find the right kind of choice for what I was trying to accomplish. And the first thing I did, I spent 2 hours going around and around to have this thing help me out, 4.5. And and after about 2 hours, I'm like, I don't, what you're trying to, I mean, there's this other variation that's available, but what you're telling me to find and to look for and try and do, it's not there. It's just
Hmm.
not there. And then it's like, yeah, you're right. That's a an old version or a deprecated version that they don't use anymore. I mean, could you mention that? And I'm
Yeah.
looking for other variations, and I went on to something else, and the same thing happened 2 hours later. It was just a thing that was just wrong, just completely wrong.
Right.
And but they talk about the 4.5 is supposed to be more human-like, easier to talk with. Well, I went back to O3 Mini and had a great time. I accomplished what I wanted to accomplish.
Yeah.
And the thing is, and this is what I noticed immediately. See, 4.5 took me down a road and kept me on that road and didn't help and was Mini gave me options. Like
Okay.
if here's the thing, you O3 will say, okay, you could do this or this or this. And if this doesn't seem to be, oh, let's look into that deeper. And okay, no, we need to go over here. In other words, the answers were just more proactive, I guess is
Gotcha.
a great way to put it. That there are proactive answers that were going to help you avoid certain roadblocks, that were going to give you new options that 4 or 5 would not even give me.
Hmm.
And so I got to say, I was so disappointed after all that, and it just was. And then I'm like, I'm gonna just go online and see what other people are saying, and everybody's like, it's dumb as a rock. It's like it's no good at all. It's like, and I'm like, oh, good. It's not just me,
Yeah.
and so yeah, ugh, horrible.
Now, do you think I keep hearing about, 5.0 coming around the horizon and it's gonna make it so you don't have to choose the different models. It's able to
Right.
kind of decide for you. Do you think it's a step of it trying to do that and just choosing the wrong model?
Um, well, yes. I mean, you could say that, it was not the right model for coding.
Right.
That's a fair statement. But people were having issues anyway with other things too.
Oh
And
my.
and then I read something, well, OpenAI says, well, it has hallucinations about 30% of the time. And I'm thinking, if I had hallucinations about 30% of the time, I know where they'd be putting me.
Yeah.
You
No,
know,
for sure.
this is not good.
Yeah,
Um,
you'd be
I
still at
mean,
a Grateful Dead festival somewhere or something.
I mean, I because you can use 4.0 and it'll code well, and I mean, I actually use O3 Mini the most. O3 High can just get too complex and slow me down because it wants to
Mhm.
get too deep into the conversation, where O3 Mini really does is a nice balance. And that leads me back to Claude 3.7 that we talked about last week, that there's some disappointment there because I thought maybe it was just me or something like that, I was it was in the same project and I put something in there and it went deep and it went deep and it got deeper and deeper, and I'm like, man, this is so great, deeper and deeper, and then it said, okay, I'm out of memory.
Oh man, teased you.
And
Oh,
so
that's
is you're done.
yeah.
So I never even got my answer or could even go any further. So I had to hop back over to, ChatGPT. And so I still use Claude 3.7 for writing. It's still a very good platform for writing and things like
Okay.
that.
Well, that's
But
good
yeah,
advice for the creatives.
yeah. So anyway,
Yeah.
back to you, sir.
Yeah. Yeah, all right. So now, all right, here comes Rantville. Here we go. So it's been a little bit of a struggle of a week using AI. I've just the output that I'm getting from it sometimes to me is just like, come on, I've used previous versions and
Yeah.
gotten better answers, or I use a turbo version of something and get a better answer. And it's like they keep putting out these new iterations and they're supposed to be 500 times better or anything. And it's like I think we're getting to the point of, getting limited returns here.
Yeah.
And so Pika 2.2, let's talk about that quickly. I mean, I tried to do my classic bring to life prompt.
Yeah.
And, I had like this shadowy figure and he's had got these like glass shards coming off of him. And I wanted it to be this abstract piece. And it ended up like just doing this cheesy move and then all of a sudden putting a face on the guy that I didn't ask for that was like super creepy and weird looking, not in a good way. Like just,
Mm.
so I had like fail after fail with it where it's supposed to be so much better. And I'm gonna go back in and try to do. I guess the main thing for Pika 2.2 is to do one image into another, and it seamlessly flows them one into
Yeah.
another. So I've seen a few of that. So I'm gonna come back with a video to try to make 2.2 work the best way it should. But so far, it's no better than 2.1, or certainly not better than Turbo. And I'd
Yeah.
rather spend my credits on Turbo and go
Right.
that route.
Yeah.
So, and then also Riff Fusion. I've done a couple videos on this now where I had to go through and create some songs based on my lyrics. I had to go through and create a little theme song for our podcast right now. That was pretty fun, that video, I'll be honest. But I started to notice what I'm going to call the Nickelback effect. And I
Ah,
don't mean this in any way to any mean way to any Nickelback fans, but we all know what happened to Nickelback in the early 2000s. At one point, you couldn't turn on the radio and escape a Nickelback song. I think it was like every 3 seconds that one of these songs were on. But what happened with Nickelback is that they learned a trick that works and they just stuck with it. And they
yeah.
stuck with it and didn't change and didn't develop and didn't go any further. And that's what I've noticed now with Riff Fusion is that it's using a lot of those same, I'm going to call them kind of Nickelback tricks
Yeah.
to where, the vocals cut out a certain time or the music cuts out. And it's like, no matter what prompt I give it, it's hard for it to get out of those tricks and those ruts.
Hmm.
And, if I go to do an edit on, say, a song that I've outputted from Riff Fusion, just like if you get an image from Dolly, I can't make an edit just on that song and have a slight change on that song. It's a whole new thing
Right. Right.
every time I go in and do an edit. So like that, I had some frustrations there. So, and again, I'll speak to ChatGPT Dolly trying to create images. They're just not real enough looking. So I want to give some advice to our creative audience and kind of plug our show in on YouTube about the videos in between our podcast videos. Because what I
Mhm.
did this week, Rosh, where I was really struggling with Pika, I went and watched a few of your image to video comparisons that you've put up there. And there's a lot of other good options. And like we've said before, everything does things in kind of their own little way. They're really good at
Right.
maybe making a facial feature look good, or some of them are really good at actually making hands and motion look good. And it's all about what your vision is to go and play with all the different ones and find the one that works best for you. And our library of videos in there really helped with that. I mean, I watched probably 3 or 4 of your videos where it was image to video and decided to change directions and give Kling a try for the first time.
Sure.
And had some pretty good success in terms of the
Yeah.
motion. Certainly Kling is one that you've spoken to. And your videos motivated me to try a new direction where maybe I was already kind of good with Pika or Runway or my Wondershare or different ones like that. So if the creative audience, if you feel like you're just constantly hitting the wall with your output and it's just not giving you anything that you think is quality, take a second, take a breath, switch gears, and try something brand new of a different platform because there's many
Absolutely.
different ways to handle it. So,
Yeah.
you've been deep in this image to video world. What's your kind of thoughts on that?
Yeah. So, yeah, each one has its own specialty. Some work better than others. And you start to notice it. And that's true with the LLMs. It's true with the video. It's true with the images. I mean, each one, it just all depends on what that platform was trained on.
Hmm.
That's all the difference in the world. So anyway, on to the rant of 2.2 to
Yeah,
continue the
yeah,
effort.
please.
2.2, I've been using Pika since 1.0. And when I did my first test with it, it basically was like a cartoon weird thing. It was not really good at all. And I would say it's not even been quite a year. These things have been moving so quickly. And
Right.
then they got to 1.5. And then I said, model walking down the street with, purple gloves kind of a thing. It's one of my standard prompts. It was amazing. It was amazing. It was really good. It's like, wow, we've gone from cartoon to absolutely perfect. And then
Yeah.
then in the new year we get 2.0, looking good. It's like it's a different style, but it's good. And then we got
Hmm.
2.1. Okay. In some ways I even liked 1.5 better,
Hmm.
still for some of the things. And now we're at 2.2 and I tested out among my standards and it was horrible. I mean, I even had to retest. Like hands would not work. Hands were morphing all over the place where you go back to 2.1, 2.0, 1.5. Hands are just great.
Right.
They're everything is moving, natural movement. and 2.2 failed. And so again, I did the prompt again in case maybe it's just a glitch somewhere, and maybe it will improve at
Mhm.
some level as they do some tweaking because it was when it just came out. But even I did my Husky through running through the Daisy field, and no, nope, the earlier versions were much better. So again, it's been a week of failure in the AI world. And I think the competition has been continuously just trying to outdo each other, that they're doing it a little too fast now.
Right. That was my exact thought, is that these versions are just getting released too quickly. And to be honest, like say speaking back to GPT 4.5, with Grok 3.0 being so good, it was not a good time to put out 4.5 and have it not be good.
No, yeah, that's a great point. I mean,
Right.
but I think they're learning they're in the beginning, ChatGPT was the only, game in town, and then we got, the threat
DeepSeek
of
and
Sora, and that held on, but then, yeah, it's keep innovating, you know. I just think about how far we've come in the last year.
right.
We've been doing this podcast. We're coming up on 2 years, Brian, this
All
summer
right.
for the
That's exciting.
podcast. Yeah, and we've seen such huge gains, especially this past year was
Yeah.
all, as we said at the beginning of last year, it's going to be the year of image and video, and it was.
Hmm.
And now we're on to other things such as agents and so forth. And this is the year of agents. But if they move too fast, we're going to have some big problems. There's one thing I just thought of related to that, and I want your comment on this. They accidentally trained um, one of the LLMs, I think it was in OpenAI, with faulty data. They did faulty data, faulty code, and it turned out to be a horrible, horrible um, chatbot that wanted to kill humans, and just admired dictators, and was it was just this horrible thing that they create. So point being, the fears, it's possible with the wrong code.
Yeah.
So so the point being, going too fast could be a big problem.
Right. I actually read an article this week about an LLM that was allowed to design a new LLM, and it did it and purposefully took off all the guardrails.
It's amazing.
Yep.
It's amazing, and we have, and I think where we're going with this is, if they keep going too fast, we may find ourselves in a pickle here. you know. So yeah.
Understood.
Anyway, okay,
Well,
we don't.
on that
So
note, all right. You know
yeah, on
what?
that
We
note,
promise our
but
audience
the
next week
show
will be
that has been the theme.
yeah. Exactly. That's what I'm saying. Next week we'll bring a little ray of sunshine. We promise. The
Oh,
weather in Michigan's going to look brighter next week. We've got everything
exactly.
happening here.
Sunshine, rainbows, unicorns. It's all
All of it.
coming next week.
We promise. All right. Well, I think we are done upsetting our audience for now, so we will. Ah, all right.
Right. Okay. We're two sad creative guys encouraging you as we talk AI.
All right. We'll see y'all next week.